we were joking that at the end of this, it looks like we will be only exchanging views within ourselves. But thank you for all those who are sitting here. I'll take your question around the impact of climate change on sustainable agriculture. In fact, I would put it this way. Climate change is a big barrier to sustainable agriculture. We have seen this in Indian context, and we have also seen this elsewhere in the world, that moment you have issues like excessive rain, issues like when summer pattern really, deviates. What we have seen is agrochemical companies are challenged with two things. Number one, how do I really predict the seasonality of the demand? Because you do not really predict the rain. And in India, of course, and some of the speakers did say that we are still very water-dependent economy, right, in terms of land also. So you keep on guessing this, and that actually puts a lot of pressure and a lot of uncertainty into how will you really plan your crop cycle, and therefore, how will you plan your production, which goes, say, 2-3 months later into your stocks, and eventually it is sold. The second element is about, if you think of agriculture here, and I was hearing some of the co-panelists before us were talking about the focus on yield, right? And I can only humbly say, because Professor is here and Shailendra is here, that along with focus on yield, focus also has to be on nutrition as well. So that's an element and variable I would like to add. What we have seen is, and I'll give you some examples where we as Accenture have been involved with some of the global companies, where because of shift in the climate pattern, some of the reasons, I'll take an example of one of the clients we have worked in Western Australia, where there was a drought situation. And they were pretty much staring at an inventory which was 14 months. And the single biggest issue this client was, what do we do with this excess inventory? Which of course leads to your working capital issues and cash flow issues. So again, I will summarize it saying there are two things which climate change is bringing. Number one, it is bringing a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on how do you really map the demand, because there's a lot of seasonality. Second, it is also impacting the yield, because now there is a lot of urgency. Jokingly, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were saying, because the rain comes very sporadically, there is a lot of pressure, not only the north belt of India, but also across the country to really increase the yield, which puts enormous pressure on, and you are having to till a lot, you are having to really spray a lot of pesticides. We can keep on saying 380 India's per capita. These are two things, and I would also say, as you think about the seasonality in the weather and the climate, it actually puts a lot of pressure on the companies having to deal with a lot of inventory and destocking problems.
Thank you. So related to this, my next question is from Professor Tripathy. How are changing weather patterns influencing the use of and effectiveness of agrochemicals, and what are the suggested solutions for improving its efficacy?
Okay. Changing weather pattern is always was there, is here, and shall continue to stay. Maybe it is going to slowly more and more accentuate in near future. That is because, of course, all we talk about climate change and all. Yes, the climate is changing every day, right from the origin of Earth to present day. Okay? When we are origin of Earth, when life evolved, anaerobic world, no oxygen. For anoxygenic world, today oxygenic world, where we are all oxygenic animals, plants are here. So, this condition has really favored oxygenic world, has really favored life on Earth, and I must say that climate change was there and shall continue to happen. We are really now bothered about the changes that induced by man, the anthropogenic impact. Okay, and this anthropogenic impact has gone so much that we have almost destroyed 20% of our topsoil. We have destroyed a lot of water reservoirs, freshwater water reservoirs from our earth. So, and also there are many other changes we have done. Of course, of burning fossil fuels and all. Most problem was cutting down forest. You see, forest, they absorb carbon dioxide and evolve oxygen. But when they absorb carbon dioxide, they keep the carbon dioxide in form of carbohydrates for years in tree trunks. Okay, and then those they become sink over carbon dioxide for hundreds of years. But now this carbon dioxide is now all the time being emitted, by us by burning fossil fuels and cutting down forests. Remember, these fossil fuels of burning are also plant-based carbohydrates, stored millions of years ago. Okay, so we are not only cutting down forest, but also burning the carbohydrates that fixed millions of years ago. Okay, and taking them from the earth and burning them and emitting those carbon dioxide out to the atmosphere. So that has changed the climate pattern very severely because of so-called global warming. And it is real. It's not that it is unreal. Many people can say that. Okay. And in this type of what called sustainable agriculture, you see, there are a group of plants called C4 plants, which are maize and millets. Okay. And they are very good. They can tolerate high temperature, which is going to be the future of the earth, high temperature. And therefore, it is important to do improvement on those crop plants, millet plants, maize, and other C4 crop plants, so that they become the better future of tomorrow. Because that is one of the major things that we should think about improving our millets and C4 crop plants, which will tolerate not only high temperature, will use less water. They have high water use efficiency. They will use less water in the scared world, in the water scared or scarcity scared world. So, water scarce world. So, I will say that we should nurture more and more C4 plants. You can say that, yes, we are going to make genetically engineered crop plants for, high abiotic stress, high temperature stress tolerance and all that. But that can happen. But that will take a long, long time. But what we have today, that which naturally can, because for these C4 plants, about 40 million of years ago, when our earth was very warm, now it's cooler than what it was 40 million of years ago. Okay? And that time they evolved, C4 plants evolved, that time which are already hot. So they evolved a hot climate. So therefore they are naturally tolerant to hot climate. So we should work on them.
Coming to Dr. Singh, in the changing scenario, we are talking about the climate change, sustainable agriculture. What role do agrochemicals currently play in traditional farming practices? And how is this transitioning with respect to sustainable agriculture?
I think the role of agrochemicals in traditional farming has been talked since morning. Agrochemicals are being used for protection against various challenges in the crop production system, be it the weed control, pest control. You can include the plant growth regulators also. And when it comes to the point of sustainability, many times a lot of people have different views about the agrochemicals. Some say that these are the saviors, and some put it in the negative light. But I think a balanced and judicious use of agrochemicals, technological advancement of agrochemicals has brought here the situation where we are in as a net exporter of almost a lot of food items. But somewhere this is also impacting the climate. And climate change, though it is not, the cause is not agrochemicals, but the usages of agrochemicals also have their role in the changed climate scenario. Some of the products which fall in the PGR, PGPR categories, They actually help in maintaining this stress, managing the stress. It's not only the pest control, it's not only the weed control. Now with the changing climatic conditions, you are seeing new weeds are coming up. Now if you don't control them, your crop production is going to be down significantly. So I would put it that a balanced and judicious use of agrochemicals is a must. It is required. Yes, we can continue to work towards elimination of the harmful aspects of that. Maybe we bring in more safer chemicals, we bring in more biological oriented chemicals, and we continue to do that. So that's how I see it in the sustainability in agriculture.
So you talked about the balanced and judicious use of agrochemicals. And since morning we have been talking about the negative perception about the agrochemicals among the masses. So how industry should take forward about the balance and judicious use of agrochemicals at the pan-India level?
See, I personally feel, I have been involved in this industry for almost 32 years, and I personally feel that industry is continuously working on improving the situation. If you really look at the extension network which currently operates in the Indian agriculture scenario, I would say that 70% of credible information goes through the industry. I keep on meeting various scientists and government extension people, and you would be surprised to know that many of them still recommend monocrotophos. Now we have gone, I think, 5 decades later. Now there is no monocrotophos as such being used. So industry is doing its bit. The kind of, Mehta Sahab was talking about the employment generation. Now this employment generation which he was talking about, 2 lakh plus or 3 lakh plus people, they are being used for the extension. We are providing that information to the farmer in his field, not only at his house. These boys are going and working and meeting the farmer, looking at his crop, providing him the right information. I think the one thing which I can look at and recommend to the fellow industry colleagues is, many times what happens is, when we train our people only for the specific product and a specific situation, the boy or the person going to the farmer is not able to provide a holistic solution. And that's where a conflict comes in. The one thing which we always look at that, when we are sending somebody, when we are sending a boy in the field, if we can train him effectively, and that is where a little more effort is required by the industry to provide the holistic information and the latest updates. That would help.
Thank you. Coming to Professor Tripathy, what role can government policies play in promoting sustainable agricultural practices in India on a large scale?
Okay, when you're talking this pesticide, one can also think about biodegradable pesticides, okay, which falls on the land and then maybe degraded within at least in a day or 2 days time, so that doesn't stay in the environment very long to cause the environmental hazard. It's one of the take we can think of, when we're designing our future pesticides. Besides that, you are saying that what government can do and all that, policy and all that. You see, first thing we say that you grow your crop in this proper environment where it is naturally grown. There is no point growing rice in Punjab, where there is so scarcity of water there. Okay, and so that water they are digging water from the soil. Okay, and then irrigating their rice when they needs a lot of water. But then at that point they are, you know, lowering their water tables. And actually, if you see the water table level of Punjab and Haryana, they are very, very low today, dangerously low. Okay. So, and there is not enough rain also to do even rainwater harvesting there. Okay. So if you see, and they don't have enough mountains also, you know, so that there are a lot of rainfall in there. So this is one of the things one should think of, that how the government can regulate one of these things. Okay. Number two, there are many things one can do for sustainable agriculture, is the thing of application of fertilizers. Okay. And think about improvement of biofertilizers. You know, that is one of the things. BAM fungi today, even today are very, you know, they can supply nutrients to the soil, to the plant, taken from soil. And they even not only they make the plant grow bigger, but also they become resistant to sometimes many stress conditions. Okay. So that is also one of the things one could think of biofertilizers. Okay. And simultaneously, biofertilizer can also be manufactured by chemical companies. Not that, you know, only other company can make it. Okay. Many people anybody can make it. So similarly, other novel fertilizers can be designed. Because what happens, climate change, if you add a lot of urea in the soil, all that, they become nitrous oxide, go to atmosphere, and, you know, work as greenhouse gas, more vicious than carbon dioxide, and they will again increase cause global warming. So that is one of the things that one could think of, you know, application of judicious fertilizers in the field, and that also many things one can do, you know, for sustainable agriculture. What can, what I will say that, you know, in many areas, government may can also help farmers, okay, to give them, you know, incentives, okay, to come out of some kind of bad agriculture practices, good agriculture practices, sustainable agriculture practices. It may cost a little more. You see, urea may be a little cheaper, biofertilizer may be costlier, okay, sometimes. But if government says, okay, you buy fertilizer more, we can give you incentive for that, many people come out from urea to buy fertilizers. So there are many things government can do. You know, I gave one or two examples. Of course, there are many things to discuss.
Thanks. Thank you. Coming to you, Mr. Kumar, we talked about the private players and government. How can ecosystem partners help to raise farm productivity sustainably? And what would be the role play for ecosystem partners?
So I'll just build on what Professor Tripathy said, right? And I'll start giving some examples as to how I have seen in my limited experience working with our clients and doing my own interpretation of the realities. One is, as you rightly said, sir, when it comes to really promoting the usage of biopesticides, unless there are incentives given to the farmers, they will not really roll up to this, right? So, and some of the easy ideas, and we have seen some of the clients we work with in regions like Canada, they give them not only loan to the farmers, they give farmers to the loan with flexibility for the farmers to pick their payment terms. So as your cycle shifts, or as your yield shifts, you have the flexibility to adjust that. Second is, as you rightly said, sir, and we have seen there are certain challenges within India and of course globe that you cannot really scale. Currently, the world is not scaling the capacity on biopesticides. So what can we really do in terms of scaling that and getting this more competitive? And third is getting to your question directly now. What is the role of ecosystem partners? I think just 30 minutes back, Ayush was sitting on the same chair, right? And we did talk about what is the role of companies which are like in farm robotics. Companies which are, say, are innovating with not only AI, ML, but also IoT, right? I mean, here is a plant just in front of me, not even 1 meter away. And then if you have sensors which are kept there, and by the way, BSF is doing a lot of these in Germany and Mexico, wherein you have sensors placed to really understand if the color of this leaf has a certain texture. And if you really do the, kind of capture and understand, no, the certain spot has gotten a bit, pale yellow or pale red, it will immediately tell you, okay, so there is a nitrogen deficiency. Okay, there is a potash deficiency. And the moment, as you said, if we have a mechanism, and I think Mr. Shailendra said that we need to have more dedicated, more technically expert sales force. And that's what we are calling as farm doctors. So you need to have people who are like farm doctors coming to your farm. And look, he does not care, okay, please help me understand what is happening to the seed. And somebody else comes and he tells you what happens with the, as the seed grows and the plant grows. And here is somebody else who tells you how to harvest. No. Our farmers are caring about integrated solutions. Whether in India that need has come, I can't comment. And this is where role of companies which are in, say, robotics. So your robot moves. It keeps on not only finding the weeds, but also the plants which are like, say, already, stressed with fungus or pest. Immediately gives a signal to the digital agriculture platform. And you know what are the micro areas where you either have to cut off the entire, sub-segment from getting more, I would say, infested, or you do a special treatment so that you don't have to really spread the whole farm. And that's like minimizing the usage of the agrochemicals, which is not supposed to be spread everywhere, right? So there's certain, applications I can think of. And of course, Government of India does a fairly good job wherein they're saying there will be spray-coated, urea, and there will be all those things, right? But my personal opinion is, some of the startups which are actually in the areas of farm automation, not only from the productivity standpoint, but also from the standpoint of saying, okay, we will help our farmers optimize the usage of agrochemicals, which in other words helps them achieve a North Star of regenerative agriculture, or ensures that they don't really till this. They don't really have to do a lot of tilling just to get the weed out. And as sir said that, can there be technologies where the weeds just die down? Or, you don't really have to treat them, right? There's a natural phenomena for them to really be part of it, which becomes a manicure and eventually your nutrient back to the soil. So I think some of this is where, startups and I was reading there are 1,800 startups which are, by the way, registered. And Government of India does a great job. I think there are 3,000 startups which are, I think, added to Government of India's, agricultural incentive policy or some other startup policy, which is a great sign. So I think on that front, I think a lot can happen by some of the AI, ML, digital companies.
I'll be coming on the technology part. Dr. Singh, he talked about the incentivization to farmers. In your opinion, how can farmers be incentivized to transition from the conventional farming using agrochemicals to more sustainable practices by using modern farming technologies?
Okay. I think there are two ways of incentivization. One is you incentivize them by providing some kind of monetary benefits. You give them extra subsidy, as Professor Tripathy was talking about. You give them some, maybe you give them extra price for their produce because it is a kind of notion that if you are going through a safer practices of agriculture, your yield is going to go down. That is one way of looking at it. But in my opinion, that probably can be a short-term approach. It probably is not going to be a long-term or sustainable approach. As we are seeing now, the consumers, they are becoming more and more aware of the quality of food, as Mithilesh was talking about the nutritional requirement. And this is a data available globally as well as in India, that in last 30 years, the nutritional value of all our food has gone down by almost 40%. So if to get a same level of nutrition you were eating one chapati 20 years back, now you need to eat 2.5. Whereas the situation is opposite, that you are now forced to eat half because of health reasons. Now this consumer is ready to pay, provided he gets the right product and right produce. In my opinion, what is important and what is required is to go and work for the capacity building and knowledge sharing for the farmers. Why they should use these new practices instead of the old age traditional practice? Because in farming, what you usually get from a farmer is always that my grandfather was doing this, so my father was, and so I am. Now, why he would change? He need to have some kind of incentive or motivation. Now that motivation can come by increasing his income, by, giving him some additional monetary incentive, or making him aware about the changing scenario in the world. That if you are able to produce a safer food by a newer technology, you can fetch a better price, or you can sell it on priority. It's not only premium, it's also priority. The third thing which I feel about this thing is that we also need to make sure that the newer technologies and newer procedures are convenient. Because many a times which we have seen that the farmer, or even for us as a consumers, we would always prefer convenience over performance. So, are we bringing the newer technology which are convenient to use, or they are difficult to use? If they remain difficult to use, I have my own doubts that anybody is going to adopt that. So, monetary is one, knowledge and awareness is the second thing, making the advanced technology more convenient is the third thing which I feel. This can help in a faster adoption.
Thank you. Coming to you, Mithilesh, you talked about the technology. Dr. Singh also talked about the technology. So what innovative practices or new technologies are being devised to reduce the reliance on synthetic agrochemicals or to promote sustainable agriculture?
I think part of it we already discussed within us
indeed.
when we said that one of the possible option is to put lot of incentive and incentivize not only research and development but also what happens after research and development to the biopesticides, bio-based formulations. That's number one. Two, three ideas which come to my mind is around, as we think of this line of innovation which goes away from manufactured agrochemicals to doing innovations in this. There's also an element around genetic engineering, right? Which is a slightly different word than genetical modification of it, right? Which is more palatable to people and even to consumers, right? So what can we do to genetically edit the properties of seeds to ensure that it is still okay? It does not cause you, cancer 10 years later and still okay. So I think a lot of it has to happen radically in the R&D side of things. Second is some of the novel farming practices, and some of us really do, right? You do vertical farming. Some of the people do no-till farming, by the way. So if there is a focus and if a congregation of, and there are big logos, at my back, they think about really incentivizing farmers with, say, no-tilling approaches, wherein you do very less to the soil and really conserve that. I think that could be the second approach to do that. Third is the agroforestry. And we have seen, because interestingly, your arable land is shrinking, the need for food is increasing. So what do you do there? So I think some of the other methods could be, how do you really smartly combine the plantation or the forestry along with for example, coffee houses are great examples. In Assam, the tea gardens are great examples, wherein what we're saying is your forestry has to coexist with, say, your rice plantation farms, right? Because eventually it's connected plantation. If you run the drones or the earth systems, they will pretty much, do the monitoring. All you have to do is sort the data and do that. So these are 2-3 things which come to my mind around how can we think about the alternate approaches. But of course, the need for synthetic chemicals is not going away. The only way we can do this, and I think Mr. Shailendra talked about, in fact, we did a research. Any consulting company you will talk to, they will say this. We did a research, and interestingly, 74% of the companies in agrochemical space, 2023 survey, said that our customers are not yet willing to pay a premium if I go for novel farming practices or if I go for something which is drastically different. And that makes it very difficult, right? So, I mean, for you and me, it's very difficult for us to differentiate, okay, am I willing to pay for this? Mind you, we all are talking about a section of India, which is perhaps, say, 10% of India. And there's an anecdote yesterday. I was in Bangalore. I was telling Praveen. I met an agrochemical client. And one of my Accenture colleagues said that they do habitual farming. So on the weekends, they do habitual farming. And they do strawberry just on the outskirts of Bangalore. He puts a message at 7 a.m. to say, I'm just about to, harvest and there will be, say, 3 kgs of strawberry to the housing society in the society WhatsApp group. So you can come and, get it, but it will be premium because it's organic. You won't believe, by the time he went by his vehicle to his own farm to say, I have told my society members to come here at 8 o'clock, people were already there standing, awaiting, chhoot na jaye, right? I need to really get this strawberry. So there is one element of India and the consumers, as Mr. Shailendra said, who is willing to pay for a premium. And I think for the alternate path of this, we have to link the R&D with the right incentivization, the product to the right premium, only then it is viable. And second thing is, how do you really link it in terms of business performance to some of the KPIs you will report on? So how many of our agrochemical company have the wherewithal and the audacity to say, okay, so I'm committing, for example, BSF, I'm committing 20% of my sales in the next 2 years will come from only selling products which have been launched in India in the last 2 years. And some of them actually have the audacity and the courage to link these, and there we have a target setting. So these are 3-4 suggestions perhaps I can think of as it relates to the alternate methods.
Thank you. I'm coming to the last question. Starting from Dr. Singh. How do you see the development, adoption of biopesticides, and how these going to contribute to sustainability in agriculture? What is actually happening, taking place on the ground in terms of biological and biopesticides?
A very interesting question, and I have been seeing the biological progress in this industry now for about 5-6 years. There are 2-3 aspects in the biologicals when we talk about. There are biofertilizers and there are biopesticides. Now, if you really look at biopesticides have been in the country registered starting with the BT, and I'm not talking about the BT cotton, but the BT formulation which was there in the country way back in 90s, never picked up. And if I really look at the kind of formulations of the biopesticides which are available, they are almost same which they were in 90s. In agrochemicals, we have moved and we have actually taken a leap in the formulation technology part. But in biologicals, where we need much more attention, because biologicals are always have a living organism or a organism which is in the hibernated stage and will start working when it goes into the field. And it would require a conducive environment. Now, conducive environment does not mean that I need to spray that or use that in a conducive, in a particular climatic condition. The environment could be surrounding that spore, a micro, environment which can be created, a microclimate which can be created by the improved and advanced technological development in formulation. Unless that happens, biopesticides or biofertilizers will remain on the sideline because the farmer is looking at the instant response. Now, it's if you talk about today's generation, we are looking at instant gratification. Boss, मैंने सुबह काम किया, मेरे को शाम को मेरा incentive दे दो. And the farmer is also looking at, he is not ready to wait 6 days, 5 days, 4 days. Ki, today I have sprayed, and he is not in a habit of preventive or protective एग्रीकल्चर, हम भी वो नहीं लेते हैं आजकल, इस तरीके का प्रिवेंशन नहीं करते हैं, जब बुखार होता है तो गोली खा लेते हैं. सो नाउ adoption is happening because, I mean, in biofertilizers also, if you really talk about, you have 4 or 5 different combinations available. Mycorrhiza is one, NPK consortia is second, and KMB is third. These are the major ones. Then you have some minor ones like zinc and sulfur and iron and all that. That's all. So the advancement in that area to provide a holistic solution to a farmer, which he is currently getting through the chemicals, that needs to be done, but that slowly is happening. Now there is a mandate. I mean, the government is talking about natural farming, organic farming, and they have a push. They have given a mandate. So there is a push, and in that push, people have started working on those lines. The first thing, I think, again, another thing which needs to be looked at from a bio input industry or in bio input products is how you are going to position them. So far, these products have been positioned as supports, not the standalone solutions. So if you are being positioned as a support system, not as a standalone solution, then the awareness and the efforts will always remain low. So we need to move from support system to a standalone solution, and maybe that could be a gradual thing. Professor Tripathy talked about the urea prices being low and the biofertilizer price being high, but reality of the fact is the urea price is much higher than biofertilizer price. The only thing is farmer doesn't pay for it. We sitting here are paying through our taxes. So the point is that, can we talk about improving the nutrient use efficiency of fertilizers through the biofertilizer? And we say, okay, you cut down 50% of the chemical fertilizers and use biofertilizers instead. Can we work on those lines? And I think it's a matter of communication which we need to bring in. So that's what my thought is.
Professor Tripathy, what is your take on this?
Yes, I will say, okay, before I come to that point, we're going to talk about nutrition part, okay. In the changing scenario of climate change, when carbon dioxide concentration is going to go up in the atmosphere more and more, you will see that wheat plants, which produce a lot of protein today, they will produce less protein per gram of seeds, and more carbohydrates per gram of seeds. The protein content of the seeds of wheat are going to go down in future, and that is also going to cause nutritional problem to the population. And number two, our research is based, most agriculture research, mostly based on producing quantity rather than producing quality. Okay. That is one of the, yes, Swaminathan's Green Revolution has done great, there's no doubt about it. But also you miss the point of improving the quality of the plants. Okay. Quality of vegetables, quality of seeds and all that. That is one of the missing links that Indian Council of Agriculture Research must focus on to improve. They are saying they are doing now, but they have to do in a larger scale to improve the nutritional quality of the seeds or vegetables or whatever. And yes, about this, as you are coming back to this, about agrochemicals and versus biochemicals. You see, there are many issues one can take up. Let's say, issue of nano-fertilizers is one which is eye-catching. It can also do the job, but probably it has to be more, systematic one, application more and more systematic, and more knowledge incentive. And whether the farmers are there yet to adapt to that kind of situation is a little problematic, but I think the issues can be handled. So the nano fertilizers can be used, in the field. So increase the fertilizer, reduce the fertilizer input to the soil. Similarly, we are talking about environmental, so less environmental concerns will be there while we are using our nano fertilizers. Similarly, I don't know these pesticides, but one of the things pesticide going to have a create havoc if the temperature increases, if they become more and more volatile, go to the atmosphere, and can also migrate to the other parts of the field or the non-target species. It can happen. So one has to think about it, designing the agrochemicals such a manner so that they do not evaporate become volatile so fast. They can tolerate little high temperature. So these are the things one should keep in mind. Mostly, first thing is extremely biodegradable. So they get degraded in environment within 2-3 days. So do not create problem to earthworms or leach out in environment and goes to canals and rivers and come again to the water cycle. Or so these are the issues one can think of, while designing the chemicals, agrochemicals, and it can happen. If not, it cannot happen. But actual, research R&D has to be done to get it done.
Thanks. Would you like to add anything on this biological and biopesticides?
I think Professor has already covered everything. All I wanted to add to this is, of course, the policy framework has to really help you, even not only in your R&D also, but as you rightly said, in propagating this, right? I mean, the farmers, they just care about the cultivation, right? And they are not so informed and so educated, so aware about it. So how do you really ensure that you have digital tools? And the good part is now, because the digital adoption, thanks to COVID, has increased so much that, barring some exceptions, farmers also have smartphones. So can you have, things where you give those agronomy services to the farmers without really charging them, right? And making them connected, making them more aware about, right? I mean, there used to be Krishi bulletins, there used to be DD Kisan bulletins, but for that, you have to really go in front of your television screen. So can that be that kind of agronomy services, which is like everyday bulletin, right? Which is given to the farmers. All they have to do is just read the news in their vernacular language. I think some of these things will help propagate this, right? Because they don't care, right? I mean, as you rightly said, that if my generation has to do farming, I really don't know. I mean, I would not care about the resources for my next generation. Farming is not kind of, bold, right? So you are just worried about immediate yield, cycle per cycle. And one more thing I wanted to add here, what Abhishek was saying, how do we make farming glamorous again? All of us, when you go to our LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram profile, you will see many people saying, I'm a part-time farmer. But nobody in India, barring some exception, says that I take pride in saying I'm a farmer, unless there are some exceptions, right? People do this. So I think that mindset has to change. How do we make farming great again? At least people take pride. And just to close on what Sir said, I think India desperately needs a green revolution. More than any other revolution, I think. We need Green Revolution 2.0, if I can say so. I think we need a nutrition revolution.
So coming for the concluding remarks from you, Dr. Singh, one-liner.
I think for sustainability, for the better agriculture and overall health and nutritional revolution, what I was talking about, we need to move to a holistic approach. Stop competing or stop saying that this is a better option or that is a better option, because no single option is going to give us the right solution. So in my opinion, there has to be a balance between the agrochemicals, the chemical fertilizers, the bio inputs, and the practices. And technological advancement, including the precision farming, the genomics, all the latest technologies, they need to come in picture. They need to come out of the lab to the farm faster. And that propagation can happen only with the help of industry. I don't see if we continue to depend on the government policies and government support, things will not move. So in my opinion, we need to keep on working on the advancement, on the technological development, and most of the people are talking about, make the farming a little more lucrative. And that can be lucrative if you are able to provide the information flow seamless. What my consumer wants today, and see, if you go to any manufacturing, what the consumer wants, you change your practices, you change the model, even in anything. You buy a car. You have every day new cars coming in, new models coming in, new advancements coming in. In agriculture, your agriculture is happening, it's not bothered about the consumer at all. That needs to change, because as a producer, the farmer is not getting much of the information what the consumer wants. I think that information flow also need to come in, and that will make the change.
That's quite an important point that you raised. Professor Tripathi, your concluding remark.
I say, yes, you were talking about omics, genomics, proteomics and all that, or whatever omics you're talking about. Yes, you see, we have to spend more money on money on research. Then only you can apply, get our achievement, achieve what you want to do. And research, unfortunately, I would say, research level in India is going down and down and down, and it may go still down. You never know. We don't know when it's going to come up. The funding for research development in universities, in government institutions, and then okay, if they are going to stop it, the industry has to take over. But yes, there are some industries, international like Syngenta and other DuPont and all that, they are doing it. Spending more money, it's R&D, okay. But unable to come up with new crop plants, genetically engineered crop plant, BT cotton came out from DuPont only, for the Monsanto only, and all that. So, but I don't know, that is one other aspect of it. So, unless we give money to, at least to government agencies, to government institutions who are incipiently developing these, and then when you're talking about this going to the farm and field, it has to go through the industries. Okay, that is very important. That is going through the industry. Government cannot do this all the time. And when go to the farmers, then the issue is, how much the industries can manage this, and I'm sure industry manage them if the proper data are given to them. But industry are not able to, at this point, to make huge investments in those areas right now.
Thank you, sir. From you.
I think as they rightly said, just to add to that, I think it requires an ecosystem, right? I mean, we cannot continue relying only on government, but how can, say for example, two companies, right? For you, a set of farmer is another one set of farmer, right? So how can companies really combine to even have the data exchange, right? Or data interchange to create that, that big, platform about having the farmers' information, having the agronomy information, having some history about the agrarian crisis so that the companies become intelligent. And I think, the competition may not be the right word here in Indian context. Collaboration may be the right word, wherein there is everything for everyone, right? So I think that relates to, being more agile and productive as it comes to R&D, right? You cannot leave it to government to keep feeding you. So I think that will be my takeaway.
Thank you so much.